Well, welcome to this special edition of the YAHOWAH blog. We're obviously here in our outdoor studio, and I have a very fidgety additional member of our cast. This is Cara, yes, and she is very, very cute. So we are going to resume where we left off in our last program. This was therefore a review of the 29th chapter of Dabarim, Deuteronomy. It was fascinating since this is the first introduction of the individual who operates according to God under the title of Ha-Nakri. It means the observant foreigner. And he had a lot to say about the arrival of this man and his work on behalf of this mortal remnant of Yisrael. But after he finished that narrative, he would also say, speaking of the rest of the Jewish population, that their purpose has become negated. No one, he said, exists among you at this time. Not a man, not a woman, no group of people or tribe whose reasonings or inclinations are found directed towards the presence of YAHOWAH, our God. That really is a devastating statement, isn't it? That means that of all of the children of Israel during the Exodus, they started off with 600,000. That means that since Hebrew verbs are liberated in time, so it speaks of all time, that among the children of Israel, there was nobody who was inclined to listen to YAHOWAH, to be directed by YAHOWAH. And I see this every day that I participate on social media, whether it be on X or on Facebook, and we listen to the rabbis babble on about the Zohar and Kabbalah and in Judaism. They never mention YAHOWAH. All they care about is what Kabbalah says and what the Zohar says and what the Talmud says and what rabbis say. There's not any one of them that are directed towards the presence of YAHOWAH or even the reasoning or inclinations of YAHOWAH, which of course explains why YAHOWAH had to restore his name, his beloved son's reputation, the purpose of the covenant and the intent of the Miqra'ey through an observant foreigner. He says to them, they are going after approaching, worshiping, and serving the gods of the Gentile nations. What he is saying is that rabbis would not only create the most popular Gentile religions. Rabbis are solely responsible for the religion of Christianity and of Islam, in addition to Judaism, and that this is a very serious problem. I don't want the little one jumping off the desk. It's a long jump down for a dog of this size. So if you want to play around there, little one, I'm going to have to set you down. That's okay. That's okay. There we go. So that's what they've done. God has expressly warned them not to follow in the religious and political ways of the Gentiles. And the rabbis have definitely done that, creating a very religious and politicized religion and a society, a community where Jews are so identified with the religion of Judaism that most people can't tell them apart. Where does Judaism end and being Jewish begin? And this is the very thing that God said, don't do. So he would continue, negated and without a purpose. There will be among you a root bearing that which is infuriating and noxious, cursed, poisonous, and embittering. Dabarim words should never have been called Deuteronomy 29:18. God's going further than saying, you're useless as people. You've sidelined yourself. There isn't a single Jew who is even worth talking to. you're poisonous, you're toxic. But he said that beyond just following in the ways of the Gentiles and becoming religious, if you will, mixing politics and religion together, that you're going to have a poisonous and toxic root, an embittering nature. And of course, during the entire Exodus, the Jews of the Exodus were embittered. They turned on Moshe to the extent that Moshe actually told God, you might as well just kill me because I can't do this job. In fact, no one can do this job alone. And Moshe was right in that regard. The job is impossible, and particularly impossible for one person. And therefore, to accomplish this, God would need to work through many people for a prolonged period of time. And otherwise, it could not have been achieved to get his wayward people to return back to him. And yet, this is indeed where we are. So, as we read through these things, what we come to know is that after Solomon, Dowd's son, there was only a handful of prophets willing to listen to and speak for Yahweh. And following Malachi, there were none. From then to now, over the span of more than 2,500 years, there has not been anyone, not a single Yehud, willing to listen to, engage with, speak for Yahweh. And as a result, there simply weren't any Jews capable of expounding upon or even condemning this ostentatious rhetoric of Sheowl Paul when he arose. And that's quite a shame, because if somebody had spoken out against Paul, who was trained as a rabbi, who identified himself as a rabbi, when he wrote his 14 letters between 52 CE and 66, it would have been very easy to have stamped Christianity out and to preclude it from being so disastrous for the Jewish people, leading to the Holocaust, subjecting Jews to living in shuttles, to all the pogroms. All that was a direct result of Paul's creation of Christianity and of Paul blaming Jews for killing his God. Unchecked, this evil man became so enamored with the most beastly expression of the ways of the Gentiles, he actually accepted a Roman name, Paulos, of course, eerily similar to Apollo. Then, in the preeminent account of his new religion, he wrote in a book named for the Romans that everyone should submit to the Gentile nation and obey its government as if they were serving God. And guess what that led to? The Roman obliteration of the temple in 70, and then the destruction of Yehuda and the diaspora in 133. Even the renaming of the land, Philistina. Doing so, a court put Paul in irresolvable conflict with Yahweh, his Torah, his covenant, and his people. Now, had Yehudim not neglected their purpose as Yahweh's witnesses and prophets, Paul's New Testament would have been laughed out of existence. It is absurdly stupid. Had Yehudim not turned away from Yahweh and promulgated all manner of myths, neither Christianity nor Islam would have taken root or spread. And if you count socialist secular humanism, Marxism, if you will, among mankind's belief systems, Jews can be found at the root of each of their most menacing foes. If this next statement were not so sad, it would be humorous, since religious Jews are notorious for saying Shalom Aleichem, peace be unto you. Yahweh has them muttering what they crave, but do not have. Haya Shalom La Ane, peace be upon me. Then, recognizing that Orthodox and conservative Jews, under the spell of the rabbis, have become stubbornly adversarial in their halakha, walking in the Jewish laws, God is calling this practice sharuth, adversarial and uncooperative, recalcitrance, if you will. So if you are Jewish, let this sink in. Those who claim to speak for God are only speaking for themselves. Not a one knows Hashem. And if you want to know him, walk away from them. Distance yourself from the rabbis and from their ilk. And it shall come to be, when he hears the account and record of this binding agreement and promise, he will actually commend himself in his judgment, saying, "Peace be unto me, though I walk in the adversarial stubbornness of my heart." As a result, those who are fully immersed are destroyed, along with those who are thirsting, wanting more. Dabarim words 29:19. There literally is no hope for the overtly religious Jews. The Haredi will never find the shalom they desire. And sadly, those adorned in black suits and black hats have cast a very dark shadow over those who are still thirsting for the light, for knowledge, for truth. And it's hard in Israel to get a word in edgewise. This is what we've long suspected, indeed known, but it is nevertheless exasperating to read. Yahweh isn't going to forgive the religious. God doesn't want to forgive the religious. He will not invite anyone into his home who has excluded him from theirs. And those who have blotted out every mention of God's name will find themselves blotted out of God's memory. YAHOWAH, which is an accurate transliteration of the name of Eloah, God, as guided by his Torah instructions regarding his Haya existence and our Shalom reconciliation, is not willing and will not consent to forgiveness for him. But instead, at that time, Yahweh will be aggravated, displeased, smoldering in overt hostility. God hates religion, and his passion and desire will be against that individual, such that all of the agreed upon and mutually binding promises written in this book will come to haunt him. Yahweh will blot out his name from under heaven. Dabarim words 29:20. If you're religious, God either does not know you or hates you. The determination of which it is, and that is a huge difference between the two. If you are one who is beguiled by religion, you're one of those who just goes along because it's part of your culture, you were born into it, your dad or your mom encouraged you to be part of it, then that's one thing. Your soul will simply cease to exist. Your name will be blotted out for sure, but there's no penalty and no reward. If you are, however, among the rabbis and those posting online talking about how great the Zohar is, Kabbalah is, Judaism is, the Talmud is, well, then you're in serious trouble, because your name will be blotted out, but your soul will not have the luxury of dying. It will spend an eternity in Sheowl. Well, in this testimony, the unforgivable sin has been further elucidated. For our edification, this comes in conjunction with Yahweh exposing and condemning religious behavior. As we have long suspected, those who have removed Yahweh's name from his book will have their names removed from the book of lives. The crime of replacing Yahweh's name with Hashem and Adonai and G-D comes at a very high price. Now, this being the case, let's be so bold as to make a recommendation. Come to know and understand, appreciate and respect, acknowledge and acclaim Yahweh's name, and never utter Jesus Christ, Hashem, or the Lord again in conjunction with God, unless it is to dispel the egregious nature of those myths and errors. Should you choose not to embrace this advice, then I want you to be aware. And then Yahweh will disassociate from him. He will exclude him for his trouble, for his depravity, and for his opposition, for his deplorable conduct and erroneous opinions, his twisted perversions, and miserable and disagreeable ways, his malignant corruptions, from every association with Yisrael, which means individuals who engage and endure with God, in accordance with all of the agreed upon and mutually binding promises of the covenant that were indelibly written in the scroll of the Torah, which means teaching, guidance, and instructions. Dabarim words should never have been called Deuteronomy 29:21. When disassociated from Yahweh, it is indeed a badal, a bad state of affairs for all who suffer this fate. They will have their souls destroyed, squandering their potential, or worse, be sentenced to an eternity in Sheowl. Such are the wages of opposition to God for those who advance twisted perversions of his testimony. In this particular statement, Allah is one of many Hebrew words with a dark and light side. It is a binding promise, a solemn oath, and a public pronouncement, even an exchange of vows. In this case, Yahweh is bound to do what he has written in his Torah, especially regarding the terms and conditions of the covenant. Therefore, if we accept his stipulations to walk away from religion and politics, from the babble of commingling these things together, and come to trust and rely upon him, walking to him through the Miqra'ey, to allow him to perfect us, closely examining and carefully considering the terms and conditions of his covenant, remembering to circumcise our sons on the 8th day, then he will remember to offer its 5 benefits to make us immortal, to perfect our souls, to adopt us into his covenant family, to enrich and empower us as his children. However, those who have vowed to negate the terms of the covenant, that's a different story. But if you have committed to uphold those conditions, and you have publicly sworn to listen to God and respond appropriately, if you're committed to honor the promises, then you'll receive the benefits. But if you reject them, the consequences. When Yahweh told Israel and us through them that we would receive every possible blessing if we followed his guidance, he irrevocably stated that misleading others regarding his directions would not be advantageous and would indeed be unpleasant. And that is where the dark side of Allah comes into play. It speaks of negative consequences and of curses for those who are not only counter to God, but who lead others away from him through their religions or political agendas. After having observed Yahweh's Torah, covenant, instructions within it, for the past 24 years, we've come to understand these concepts as clearly as they are presented here by Moshe in Dabarim, in words 29 throughout this chapter. The covenant's mutually binding promises are indelibly written in the scroll of the Torah. If we want to be part of Yahweh's family, we find the conditions and the benefits listed therein. We can accept them, we can reject them, or we can ignore them. But we are not at liberty to change them, nor is it in our purview to alter the consequence of acceptance or the consequence of rejection. Addressing everyone, but speaking directly to Yisrael, there are 3 things we must know if we want to survive the impending storm, and it is on our horizon. The time of Israel's trouble starts in 7 months. The first of these things is Yahweh's name. The second is his Torah. The third is his Beryth. To discount them is to die. To speak or act in opposition to any of these three things and thereby lead others away from life is to endure Sheowl forever. And while I'm not your judge, based upon what we've learned by studying Yahweh's words, if you remain deceived by religion or government, or if you embrace conspiracy, your soul will be destroyed. And if you promote your religion, if you are active politically, if you encourage others to believe conspiratorial notions, eternal incarceration in a black hole will be the consequence. And I know that's hard for lots of people to believe. You know, if you're MAGA in the United States and you're surrounding yourself with other MAGAs or online talking with MAGAs, you all think you're great, having no idea that you're huddled around the Antichrist. You know, if you live in Israel and you're part of Likud, then you're hanging with fellow Likud members. You're, you know, denying yourself reality. And you can't believe that that your political views are somehow harming your soul and Israel, but they are. If, you know, you're part of the Haredim cult, if you are somehow caught up in Orthodox or evangelical Christianity, oh, for God's sake, if you're a Muslim, because everything surrounding you and your culture and all those that you know are echoing the same lies, it just seems impossible that somebody telling you that if you're religious or if you're overtly political, even conspiratorial, you're done. And the best you can hope for is the elimination of your soul. It's demise. Because if you actually promote these things, as we're seeing so many people do so absurdly today, then the consequence is Sheowl. God's been very clear as to how he demarcates the difference between the two. In fact, specifically as it relates to the sacrifice of the Bakar, the bull come Towrah, in Bob Midbar, Numbers 15, he is diligent in telling us that that sacrifice will purge those who are guilty by omission, in which they've been misled. But it will have no effect on those who are guilty by commission because they have misled others. So misled versus misleading. You know, I know that I'm speaking to those who are way too far gone to benefit at this point. But the most recent post by those advocating Spirit Mom was so disgustingly misleading and so errant that you hang with that group, you will have written your own ticket to Sheowl, because it is quite evident that you are not only wrong, but you're actually creating a new religion. Now, this has been a rather remarkable introduction to the mindset of the right-minded but misguided Israelites and Goy throughout the ages. And it takes us right to our time and to the influence of Ha-Nakri, this observant foreigner. And he is here for Yahweh's children, as promised. It appears that it's going to take a considerable amount of effort, and an outsider indeed, according to Yahweh, to get Israel's attention at long last, that and undue suffering. And perhaps that is why those who stand with Israel have been invited to participate in the covenant. Those who long ago introduced us to Yahweh now need one of those distant beneficiaries to point a stiff-necked Yisrael back in the right direction so that they can return to Yah. And that is indeed the message of the 29th chapter of Dabarim. And yet, when presented before an audience that witnessed these plagues, Yahweh deployed against Egypt to free his people from such religious and political coercion and economic and military domination. Well, it's likely that the devastating anti-Semitic consequence of mankind's most malicious conspiracy, which is now blame the Jews. That's the primary theme these days on X, and to a smaller degree, I guess, on Facebook, but certainly a dominant theme on X. It's going to serve as a motivating factor in getting the chosen people's attention. The world has targeted them, and the best we can hope for is that we get their attention and that they listen before it's too late. So this is what we should expect. Yahweh's testimony in the Towrah, Navi, Wamizbor has been available for thousands of years. And yet in all of that time, there wasn't a single receptive Yahud through whom Yahweh could communicate to his people, not at any point in that time. Now, keeping in mind that Ha-Nakri is defined in the books that we are translating as someone who is Asher, properly guided, who is Kum, who stands up as others bow down, and who is Nakar, observant, closely examining and carefully considering Yahweh's words, exploring what God has revealed in the books that he has inspired. So he's become a lot more than just a fellow holding a lamp along the way. He is now shouting, pay attention to what Yahweh has to say. Now, Yisrael, unfortunately, has returned to captivity. They've gone from Miqra'ey into Babel. As Yehudim are harassed and oppressed by nations, much of which is their own doing, the other is of religious persuasion. But they created the three most popular doctrines, rabbis did, that are haunting them. And yet, to an increasing degree, Jews are finding God's demonstrable opposition to the political, religious, and conspiratorial influences, well, comforting, even reassuring, because they've been so hostile to them. For the first time in a long time, they're beginning to listen to God, beginning to warm up to his influence. There are more and more people listening in Israel, and many, many Jews now listening worldwide to God, many who have become covenant. Now, ironically, it's those who want to round up, to denigrate, and to imprison his people, to exterminate them, who will scream so loud that they will awaken the children of Yisrael, such that they hear Yahweh say to them, come out of Babylon, my people. It is only when Yehudim, Jews, are confronted with no other alternative but to flee or be tortured and die that they will begin to listen to Yah. So Ha-Nakri, this observant foreigner, is therefore a voice. He is one calling out in the wilderness of human corruption. Prepare yourselves for the arrival of Yahweh, and now, of course, also of his son, our Messiah and King, Dowd. So then the last generation, Ha-Dor Ha-Akaron, those descendants dwelling at the end during the latter days, they will make a profession and a promise. They will choose to declare at that time, expressing their desire in words, answering with the intent to be informed. Your children led along the correct path to receive the benefits of this relationship, Asher. will rise up finally and take a stand during a distant time from yours, because Ha-Nakri, the observant foreigner, this discerning individual who pays close attention, carefully examining and thoughtfully considering so as to recognize and acknowledge this, a man of unrelated ethnicity who still will notice and come to perceive, who will know, regard, and respect what he discovers, becoming acquainted with the individuals and information that matters. He will come, Bo. He will arrive. He will indeed pursue this. And he will arrive from a faraway place in a distant time. So then they will see and perceive that which is plaguing this land, the evil disease, and overcome the impairment, which is so grievous, which now necessitates intercession to resolve the sickness, precluding the benefits associated with the relationship that Yahweh intends. What a stunning adjunct to Dabarim words. Should never have been called Deuteronomy 29. This is 29:22. As clearly as words allow. And it's just stunning that, Jews will misappropriate a passage on a tizzit and think that they're supposed to have a tassel that dangles from their side and will wear it religiously when it's supposed to be a tiny blue flower inside of a garment, not to be seen by anyone but them. They'll put a box on their head and another one on their arm. They will count their steps during the Shabbat. They will do all manner of things thinking that, they're being Torah observant. And here the Torah in the 29th chapter of Dabarim is telling them that there will be Ha-Nakri. And this Ha-Nakri is for the last generation, and yet they await an unknown unknown Messiah. Why aren't they listening? There's no Messiah in the Torah. Oh, it speaks of the man who would be anointed as the Messiah, as Dowd, but there's no Messiah in the Torah. But there is a Ha-Nakri, a Ha-Nakri. So why are those who claim to be Torah observant so much in denial over this? Do you hear any Jews saying, you read the Torah, and it says clearly, and in fact, the entire chapter of Dabarim, Deuteronomy 29, tells us that we should be anticipating the arrival of Ha-Nakri, this observant foreigner, for the last generation. No. But they speak of a unknown Messiah when Messiah is not mentioned in the Torah. They speak of rabbis, and rabbis aren't mentioned in the Torah. They speak of phylacteries, these boxes they put on their head. They're not mentioned in the Torah. They speak of Kabbalah. It's not mentioned in the Torah. They speak of Judaism. It's not mentioned in the Torah. But Ha-Nakri is. Why don't they pay any attention? And it's specifically timed to the last generation, which is right now. We are just 7.5 years removed from year 6000 2033. So then the last generation will make a profound profession. Your children, led along the correct path to receive the benefits of the relationship, will rise up and will take a stand. And that is what's needed. They will do so during a time distant from yours. Because Ha-Nakri, the observant foreigner, he will come. He will arrive from a faraway place in a distant time. they will be standing around the Temple Mount. They will do so on a day that is unknown in Judaism or in Jewish culture, Towrah, because they've changed it to Rosh Hashanah, ahead of the Babylonian New Year. And so, one less mosquito in the world. Excuse me for my marksmanship, but I don't like them. This Ha-Nakri will offer his life, his Bashar body, for them. He is the man from Edom. He is the final Zeroah. He is Dowd's Bashar herald. He is the long-awaited Choder. And he will come from a faraway place in a distant time for the last generation of Yisraelites who will finally take a stand and be accounted for. It's an amazing prophecy. It's an explicit prophecy. And so then they will see what has been plaguing them and plaguing this land, the evil disease and overall impairment, which is the sickness of religion. It's that which grieves, necessitating this intercession, which is why Ha-Nakri will offer his life for the benefit of this final remnant on Towrah in year 6000 Yah, the 24th of September, 2033. So egregious what Judaism has done to Jews. But it's going to have a resolution. Well, when we consider this, we now know why Solomon spoke to his people about the arrival of a HaNakri during the last days. We now know why he didn't have to identify who the HaNakri was, because he had already been identified in the Torah. This explains much of what Dowd's son had to say about this observant foreigner at the dedication of the house for Yahweh's name. There really are very few distinctions more vital to one's mission than having been prophetically introduced by Yahweh inspiring Moshe to include the prophecy in the Torah, especially in conjunction with the intent to heal the rift that has estranged Yisrael from Yahweh. Having devoted 24 years of my life to this mission, since Yahweh asked me to serve his people on Towrah in 2001, and will culminate that mission in 2033 on Towrah, bringing them home. It's, of course, gratifying to read this endorsement. It's also encouraging because, well, it would not have been written if I failed father and son. If I had given up somewhere along the way, if I had been sidetracked, then there would have been no mention of this HaNakri, would there? The very fact that it's found in prophecy means that it will happen, and that the remnant of Yisrael will be spared. It's all going to happen as Yahweh had proclaimed, which means that I and those who are working with me, Rich, controlling this and producing this program, and the likes of Kevin, who was so instrumental with me in our success of the vlog on the blog yesterday, and my beloved wife, who is so devoted to all we are learning and to this final reconciliation of her people, of Yisrael, and coordinating the marketing of our mission. My good friend, Joe, who is known to so many of you as Sheowl, who has now presented our books back so that they are revised and in the new menorah format for Amazon, and who has been so instrumental in restoring the YadaYahowah.com website so that all of these books and all of this information is available to you, no matter where you might live, and that you might learn the message of Ha-Nakri, all of which is free, all of which is completely available and presented for your benefit. There are so many now who are committed to this mission, and Israel owes every one of you this tremendous vote of appreciation for all you have done to bring this very proud moment to our God, because he has already declared that working collaboratively, Yisrael will YadaYahowah once again. And we know that Yahweh can be trusted. He will deliver on every promise. He has repeatedly vowed to reconcile his relationship with Yehudah and Yisrael. And it is a commitment that he will uphold, and he will do it his way, working through people of his choosing. This marvelous moment will occur, and it will happen consistent with his Torah instructions. Yes, the Ark of the Covenant will be repositioned under the restoration of the tent of the restoring witness, as all Yisrael gathers around so that Dowd can anoint the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant as he returns on Yom Kippurim. And the earth will be purged of all religiosity and politics and conspiracy and anti-Semitism, and then terraformed back to the conditions found in Eden, so that we can enjoy 1,000 years of camping out with Father and Son. It will all happen just as he has said, and there will be no exceptions, even among his people, led to the correct path. In the end, they will finally rise up and take a stand against all of those who have opposed them and misled them, and they will cheer Yahweh as he expunges all of those who are hostile to them from the earth, including rabbinical Judaism, that has been the worst and most embittering foe of God's people. Of course, eliminating Islam and Christianity, Marxism, conspiracy, anti-Semitism, militantism, all in one blow. This is the outcome that the HaNakri, in collaboration with Yahweh, is going to deliver. Yahweh wants his people to consider what this observant foreigner has learned by translating his Torah, his prophets, and Nabi in a manner never previously attempted, in an amplified translation with the Hebrew terms in their most generic form highlighted within a parenthetical so that you can look up every word and verify them for yourselves. And with a man who has been gifted with the seven spirits of Yahweh, so he has unique discernment, the ability to make the connections, to understand and deliver thousands of previously unheralded insights that you might understand who Yahweh is and what he is offering, as well as what he expects in return. And because Yahweh chooses to work through people, without the contributions of the HaNakri being specifically noted by Yahweh, such that his endorsement becomes known of this observant foreigner, while he is calling out to his people and drawing them home, then this mission would not succeed. But because he has acknowledged it, you can be assured it will. The only question is, will you be among the recipients? I mean, Yahweh's consistent instructions have been to disregard the Goyim, but it's not disregarding the Goyim, it's the ways of the Goyim. It's to disregard being religious and political and integrating those things in a Babel fashion, commingling to confuse. And of course, it has been these religious and political schemes of the Goyim, particularly Christianity and Judaism, as well as Marxism, that and Islam, that have treated Jews so horribly. And so I'm sure that there is a reluctance, but you've been reluctant to listen to YAHOWAH for 3,000 years. Consider this perhaps the slap in the face that you need. You know, YAHOWAH could make this lone exception for this foreigner and those serving with him during this period, because he is not only vehemently opposed to the very things that YAHOWAH disdains among Goyim. Yes, I am anti-religious. I am anti-political. And so I am opposed to the things that YAHOWAH opposes among the Goyim, which makes me more Yisraelite than any Israelite, and less Goyim than any Goyim. But he's also committed to everything that God has sought for his people, making him Yehud, beloved of Yah. Well, I had preferred initially to have written Ha-Nakri, Observant Foreigner, in the lowercase. When it is preceded by Ha, the definite article, it becomes a title. And it needs to be capitalized and written Ha-Nakri, the Observant Foreigner. And yet, realizing that it refers to me by default, recognizing there's no one else to whom it has ever applied, and there is no time left for it to apply to another, and that it is a single individual. I'm becoming gradually more comfortable with the title. It's because I want to succeed. I don't want to live with the consequence of having failed to measure up to what God is expecting. So here we are. Every word that I have confessed to you has been based upon YAHOWAH's testimony and the insights and conclusions which can be drawn from what his prophets have revealed. This title, Ha-Nakri, the Observant Foreigner, of course, is based, as I have shared, on the verb nakar. The verb means to recognize and to acknowledge, to know and to regard that which is discovered through exploration, observing and listening as well. As such, based upon nakar, Ha-Nakri, this observant foreigner, he's not presenting his own message for his own benefit, but is instead sharing what he has observed by exploring God's words. He will therefore ask nothing for himself. He will not care how the world responds to what he has learned. He will know that whatever they reject, and whether they reject his message or not, whether they disdain his insights or find merit in them, they will be dismissing or acknowledging YAHOWAH, not him. He will not have a following. He only has one mission statement, and that is to do this job that YAHOWAH has allocated and authorized. But you'll notice he does not have a donate button, and he charges nothing online for his books. He will not claim to be a prophet, although YAHOWAH has indicated that he has been a prophet in the past. Nonetheless, it would be wise to read and to listen to what he has discovered by studying the presentation of YAHOWAH's prophets in an introduction to God, throughout the 9 volumes of YadaYahowah, throughout the 5 volumes of observations, of course, through the 3 and soon to be 4 volumes of Coming Home. It's also helpful to know who God is not by reading the 5 volumes of Twistianity, the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, and the 3 volumes of Babel. But enough said about the Ha-Nakri. I think we need to focus on the Torah's message. And in this particular statement, the phrase was issued, Asher Chalah Yahweh Bahi. It's one of the most intriguing we have considered, and it can be translated as saddened when revealing what Yahweh is rightfully enduring and that he's grieved by mankind's propensity to be religious. But since Chala also means wounded and sickened, even tormented, the verb reveals that Yahweh himself would be severely pained by this religious disease, from this plague. From that perspective, this is among the most horrendous yet wonderful realizations ever conveyed to humankind. It suggests that Father and Son would suffer from this plague, doing so on Pesach and Matzah to free us from the grip of the deadliest institution man has ever conceived, religion. And this realization takes us back to the beginning, right back to the moment we examined Ana, which means to reply and respond, particularly in conjunction with each of the Moed Miqra'ey, but also Yom Kippurim in particular, the Day of Reconciliations. Those who Ana, answer Yahweh's Miqra'ey, invitations to be called out and meet, will not be Ana afflicted, because Dowd ransomed us from the plague of religion by fulfilling Chag Matzah, volunteering to have his soul, Chala, tormented in our stead during Passover and unyeasted bread, delivering the benefits of Bokurim, firstborn children. So in these words from the Torah, we're witnessing the greatest of all gifts and the ultimate demonstration of love. There are, of course, innumerable possibilities with what follows. The devastation could be the result of a nuclear holocaust between nations, mankind's malfeasance, a super volcano eruption, a natural event, or a devastating asteroid impact, as has been found and foretold in the book of Revelation, should it perchance be correct. Apophis is coming very close to Earth in 2029. But since they are expressly listed and the causation is comparable, it is certainly likely that a divine act of cleansing akin to what occurred in Sodom and Gomorrah will occur. The timing also suggests that the devastation might be akin to the plagues that preceded Exodus. So we are also left to wonder if it will occur within one nation, an entire region, or the earth as a whole. While Eretz is often used to describe the promised land, in this case, the context seems to imply that it is the nation from which the HaNakri emerges that are going to feel the brunt of the trauma. If that is the case, the reason could be the reminiscent of the Egyptian recalcitrance towards freeing their Jewish captives. The nation that currently benefits the most from Jewish inventiveness and industry is the United States, which not so coincidentally is where most non-Israeli Jews live. And so I will end with this statement, and we'll pick it up again in our next program from the Ocean Studio. It reads, brimstone, with its purifying blue light and salt, will change the composition, but not consume this entire country. Nothing will be sown, and nothing will sprout up. And along with all of this vegetation will no longer rise, similar to the destruction of Sodom, scorched, and Gomorrah, the manipulative and tyrannical, of Adamah, the reddish ground, and Seborim, the swelling of the adulteress, which Yahweh has destroyed in his resentment and in his hostility. Dabarim words 29-23. That'll be an interesting place for us to return, because there's so many insights here worthy of our consideration. But this is a rendezvous with our future. It's going to be an exceedingly rough ride between now and the time that our Messiah Dowd returns on Kippurim in 2033, and Yahweh restores the earth to the conditions of Eden. And we have a lot to accomplish and a lot to learn and a great deal to share. So I thank you for listening to this edition of The Voice from our Ocean studio. Good night.